Hello, welcome to another video, and a very exciting one at that. Today I am here to announce to you Polathon 2020! Yay! I am really excited about this, and I'm excited to be filming this. I'm excited to be telling you about this. I'm excited about this whole thing. If you are unfamiliar with the Polathon, it is a readathon that I did last year in February. And have decided to try and make it an annual thing, a Polathon each February. But Polathon is based on polar fantasy as a reading genre. If you're familiar with me at all, then you may know that polar fantasy is one of my favourite things to read. If you are unfamiliar with me at all, hi, I'm Jade. Polar fantasy is one of my favourite things to read, and I created a readathon based on that last year. And I'm doing it again this year. And this is the 2020 edition. So I have already announced the dates for this on Twitter because I have created a Twitter page for the Polathon this year, which is just at Polathon on Twitter. I will link that down below. So the dates have been public knowledge for a little while. It is the 3rd to the 9th of February 2020. So it is just a week-long readathon. I only did it for a week last year as well. I just think a week is a nice, small period of time to push yourself and challenge yourself, which is what I like about a readathon. I like the challenge aspect, and I did think about making it a month-long thing through February, but like, to complete it, you only need to read 5 prompts, and I think pushing for that intensity in a week is what I like in a readathon, so that's what I've gone for. So as I say, the dates are from Monday the 3rd to Sunday the 9th of February, so mark it in your calendars. Let's get going. Right, the point of this announcement video though is for the prompts and the map, because that's really all there is left to announce. So let's show you the map that I have created. I have illustrated this map myself. I did that with last year's. Again, I like doing a little bit of digital illustration every now and then, and it's just a little something that I like to put together. So this, let me scooch over, this is the Polathon 2020 map. Ta-da! Do you like it? This year I went for, rather than like a journey up a mountain like last year, it's like a journey through a glacier, like a frozen river type thing, almost like a fjord. Yeah, anyway, that's what the base of that is, but then I've just popped the path thing over the top of that. So we have 4 levels of path through to Polar Fantasy at the top. So you do have to complete 5 prompts in order to get to the top. I'm going to be looking down here because I've got it on a screen down here, because obviously this is imaginary to me. There are 3 starting points at the bottom, and then you can travel your way up the map to the top, which is of course Polar Fantasy. You don't have to go in a straight line, you can zigzag, so if the prompt is connected to another prompt, you can take it, so you can zigzag your way around and get from the bottom to the top. So as I say, that should work out at 5 reads for you, but you know, if you want to do more than that, you do you. I'm totally okay with that. Also, because I know people will ask if you can double up, I will allow doubling up, but only if they are connected. So for example, at the bottom we have retelling, and then directly above that is a fairy friend. So if it's a retelling that contains a fairy friend, you can do that. But if it's a retelling that also has a snowy setting, which is more at the top, then you can't combine those because they're not connected. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense, but if that doesn't make sense, then please just ask and I will clarify if you need it, but hopefully that's clear enough. So yeah, that's kind of the rules. A week to do that. You can combine if they're connected. They have to be connected on the map in order for you to travel your way up. Otherwise, let's just go through what the prompts are. So I will start in the bottom left and go across. So in the bottom left we have 1 day read. This is a read that you can complete in a day. Simple as that. A nice way to kickstart your journey, making all that progress in one lump at the beginning. So a 1 day read. Next to that is a retelling. This can be a retelling of anything. It is just a retelling. Doesn't have to be a Polar Fantasy read, but double points if it is. I'm kidding, there are no points. So yep, just a retelling. And next to that we have cold word. This means a cold word in the title. So if the title has something like winter or ice or snow or cold in it, then that counts. Cold word in the title is all that requires. Right, then above One Day Read we have Intimidating. So this is an intimidating read. Not necessarily because it's a big one, just something that you've been a bit nervous to start, a bit intimidated by, perhaps scared of. Maybe it's the end of a series and you're worried about how it's going to close off. Maybe it's a book that's just been on your TBR for ages and you've become a bit afraid of it. But yeah, an intimidating read. Next to that we then have A Furry Friend. This is just a book that has a furry companion, a sidekick, a pet, anything of that sort, just a furry friend involved in the story in some capacity. And next to that we have Foiled Cover, so this is a beautiful book with a foiled cover. Above Intimidating we have Icy Cover. This is like a book cover that looks icy and snowy and wintry, quite self-explanatory. A cover that has icy elements to it. Next to that we have A Journey, and this is a book that contains a journey from one place to another. Next to that we have Heartwarming, so this is a heartwarming read, something to warm up those frozen fingers on this, you know, cold expedition you're on, so a nice heartwarming read. Then above Icy Cover we have Northern Folklore. This is something that I'm really excited about. I love Northern Folklore, so any sort of book that has any sort of Northern Folklore or mythology in it is good for that one. Next to that we then have Snowy Setting, so this is a book that takes place in a snowy setting at some point. It doesn't have to be set in a snowy setting in its entirety, it can just have a small piece of it in a snowy setting, but there has to be a snowy setting somewhere within that book. And then next to that we have Icy Magic, and you know, think Elsa has to have some sort of icy magical element to it. Doesn't necessarily have to be a person with ice powers, but the ice within this book is somewhat magical. And then bang at the top, you only have one option for the top. You have to finish on a polar fantasy. The polar fantasy prompt really is the only very specific one. Most of these other prompts you can probably get away with them not being a polar fantasy, despite the fact that this readathon is based around polar fantasy. But the top one, your last step on the journey, is a bit more specific and does have to be a polar fantasy book. So if you don't like fantasy, that could potentially be a little bit difficult, but you know, who doesn't like a bit of magic? But yeah, there we go. That is the map, and that is all of the prompts and the rules, I think. Right, we'll get rid of that now. If you are unsure if your book qualifies for polar fantasy, then again, just ask me, I'll let you know. Ask some of the many other people that will probably know. And there will be a recommendations video for polar fantasy coming up at some point. I did do one last year, which again I will link if you want it, for some solid recommendations that still stand, you know, they're still polar fantasy. But I will be doing another recommendations video for polar fantasy, and probably just some recommendations for some of these other prompts that I recommend that might not necessarily be polar fantasy, but will fit the prompts, just to help you put your TBR together if you need a hand. I will leave a link to that graphic down there somewhere so that you can download it, so that you can have a copy of it yourself. It will also be published on Twitter as well, so you can check it out there. And I do recommend following the Twitter in the lead up to Polathon, because I might have a couple of giveaways planned, maybe. And by maybe, I mean I do. So if you want to be in on those, then please do follow the Twitter. Also, throughout the course of Polathon, I will be very active on that Twitter page, doing sprints and so on, as you do in a readathon. I think that's everything. I've told you the very limited rules, I've given you the prompts, I've given you the dates, social link down below, recommendations video down below, graphic link down below. If you have any questions, then please just ask. I'm sure there are probably going to be some, but yeah, please do ask if you have any queries. Oh, also, just for funsies, I'm going to be daily vlogging Polathon, so wish me luck with that, because I am going to be going for 5 reads. I don't want to double up myself, so I'm going to be going for 5 reads within the week, and I'm going to try and daily vlog it. So I'm kind of putting a lot of pressure on myself for that, but fortunately I have booked the week off work because I'm going hardcore on this year. Awesome, right, well, that's everything I think you need to know. You know, shout about the readathon, tell your friends, ask them if they want to join in. I didn't really plug this too much last year and kind of encourage participation, but this year I really do want people to join in. I love the sense of community, and I would love for the Twitter page to be a really bubbly polar fantasy place to hang out. So let's bring all of us winter-loving folk together over there. I appreciate that February might not be winter where you are, but typically where I am, it is. So I'll be all cozied up. Might not snow, hasn't snowed in a while, but it's always pretty cold and miserable in February for me, so it'll be nice to have a week of cozying up, reading, daily vlogging, chatting to you guys over on the Twitter, etc. I'm really excited. Keep an eye out on the Twitter for the giveaways, and all relevant information will be linked down below. Any queries, hit me up either in the comments or over on Twitter, on the Polathon Twitter or my personal one. Either works, both are linked down there. But yeah, that's that. I hope you're excited. I am excited. I hope you participate. I will be participating. And yeah, okay, awesome. Thank you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!